Oh, thanks for watching. My name is Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and I'm currently ranking and reviewing the 26 Frank Zappa tours. I've determined our tours and are rank worthy and review worthy, and I am now on number 20. We are staying in 1976. 21 was winter 76. We are now fall 76. And this will give me a reason to explain why I've decided to divide the tours the way I have. Because while winter 76 and fall 76 are decidedly different beasts, winter 77 is the same band, minus one person who left about a midway through this tour, fall 76 tour, is essentially the same band. But there's a different vibe. The set lists are different. Frank's kind of exploring more on his guitar, so for those very minute reasons, and liking one part of it better than liking the other part, I decided to make fall 76 and winter 77 entirely different things. I've already done winter 77. I think it's 22 maybe. And I'm also not considering the Zappa in New York shows at all. This is the core band, minus one person that was in the Zappa in New York shows, augmented by horn players, percussionists, a different sort of vibe and set list. And the Zinni shows, the Zappa in New York shows, work as a wonderful bridge from fall 76 to winter 77, and I think you could put them in both camps, and I didn't know who to give credit for it. I mean, it would make sense that this band would get it, the fall 76 band, because they're both in 1976, but I felt that certain aspects of it connected more with the winter 77, so I said, I'm just not going to consider those shows at all, which is why fall 76 is here at number 20. Also because have you heard the other 19, and also primarily the main reason why it's at number 20 is I think almost every other tour, except for maybe one or two that remain on this list, there is at least one song in each of those tours that compels me to want to hear like every show possible. The Grand Wazoo, that's different because those set lists were very improvisational anyways. But 73 and 74, Dupree's Paradise. I literally would love to hear every Dupree's Paradise. It wasn't played at the Bongo Fury 75 tour, but Frank understood how good George Duke's sort of improv was, that bridge between Montana and Dupree's. So in 75, George still did that improv. That's another thing I would love to hear every single instance of. In 75, 76, you had the Chungus Revenge and Zoot Allures. After this tour, you have Wild Love, Yo Mama, Inca Roads in 79, Every Black Page number 2 in 82. You have just very significant sort of Frank going out on a limb moments that almost demand to be heard every time. And other than Black Napkins, which I've said many times should be every solo from that song should always be released. That is on this tour. And so again, that is a reason to maybe, seek out as many shows from this tour as possible. But almost all these other tours have Black Napkins also, but they have something else. I mean, Fall 75, which we haven't got to yet, has Zoot Allures and Black Napkins and Any Downers. Winter 76 was helped out a lot by it had Black Napkins and Zoot Allures and Filthy Habits. This only has Black Napkins. And while the advanced romance solos are excellent, and almost any time Frank plays the guitar, it is excellent, it just doesn't have that sort of we needed to release this moment that I think other solos have. So that was a rant about why this is number 20. But this is a great tour. And I love it at the risk of sort of diminishing the sort of musical richness of it and how just complex and crazy it is because it is a Frank band. This is a very fun tour. Frank is in a good mood. The band is in a good mood. Even the person who leaves halfway for horrible reasons that were not her own fault, I'll talk about that in a while, was in a good mood. The vibe is great. The songs are great. It's a really, really fun, enjoyable tour. And I don't think I've ever listened to a show and not enjoyed listening to a show from this tour. The band is Frank Zappa is on guitar and vocals. Terry Bozzio is the only returning member, drums and vocals. Patrick O'Hearn is now on bass and vocals. Ray White is now joined the band for the first time, adding in a rhythm guitar player and an additional lead guitar player. So Frank's not doing all the heavy lifting on the guitar. Eddie Jobson is now the keyboardist and also plays violin and has some pretty good, nice violin solo, I think, like once a show. And then sort of the thing that makes the first 3.5 weeks of this tour fantastic. Bianca Odin on vocals, keyboards, and being harassed sexually by audience members, asking her to take off her clothes. I think it's the Boston 1024 show. Think that's the one that's on YouTube. While she's doing her amazing sort of a cappella performance right before You Didn't Try to Call Me kind of kicks off musically. Some fans are yelling at her and she stops the show and tells somebody to tell their mama to take it off and then go do some other sexual act. It's a really good moment, and Frank gives a really good, yeah, tell those jerks kind of thing. So she left. The tour started October 16th. She left. Her last show was November 12th, apparently for lots of reasons, but one of them was just being like harassed nonstop. Or just not being able to perform and be a performer, but having to deal with other stuff. So that sucks. But her contributions to this tour are fantastic. She sang You Didn't Try to Call Me with a great arrangement, which Frank ran the band through all these sort of different musical paces that she could do different vocal things with. Advanced Romance, this is, I would say, the best advanced romance of any tour. This tour's advanced romances. It's a great vocal performance by Bianca. Patrick O'Hearn gets a bass solo. Frank gets one of his better guitar solos that are usually very quoting lots of other songs and playful and kind of fall apart at times and then pick back up, and very kind of Frank's loose and having a good time. And I think that's really evident in like the advanced romance in particular. And represented, so what else am I going to say? 19 shows, 13 cities. Might have been more shows than that. This was a while ago when I was counting tapes. Flo and Eddie showed up and played in Detroit and did a bunch of songs that Frank had been doing anyway and sang along. They were Flo and Eddie songs, and Frank had them in the repertoire, and Flo and Eddie were going to be at more than one show, but if you listen to Philly 76, Frank clearly says their guitar player was killed, so that's horrible. And then... yeah, that's it. And I think there was a bass and a drummer who sat in on something, but I don't remember details. Ralph Armstrong on bass and Don Brewer on drums. Those the Grand Funk Railroad guys? I think they are. Guess they sat in on a show. I forgot all about that. The only place you can find this band, other than on the Zappa in New York releases, which is this band augmented by all these other musicians, is on Philly 76. Which is a complete show towards the, latter half, a couple weeks before she leaves. But this has everything great that Bianca does, has a great guitar solo. It's your typical set list that was generally played night after night. There were a number of songs that kind of Frank threw in the mix and tried out a couple times. There was, I think, either City of Tiny Lights, or there's a couple songs in which Bianca and Frank are going back and forth, and one of them they sing Any Kind of Pain, but just the lyrics. Another one, Frank drops the lyrics to Bamboozled by Love. So there's a lot of even though there's this kind of strict set list that happens night after night after night, there's a lot of playfulness with Frank, just musical ideas and quotes, and you can tell there's like a restlessness about him, but he doesn't quite know where to put all this energy. Anyways, your typical set list: Purple Lagoon, Stinkfoot, Poodle Lecture is still around, Dirty Love, and then instead of going into Filthy Habits as it did on the previous tour, Wind Up Working in a Gas Station, Trying to Grow a Chin. Wind Up Working in a Gas Station is another great performance. I think you can hear that on stage 6, this band's version of that with Bianca doing the vocals. Trying to Grow a Chin, Torture Never Stops, still not quite where that song would be by Winter 78, but solid performances nonetheless. City of Tiny Lights, I think this is the best version of City of Tiny Lights. It opens up with just Ray's guitar doing that dun 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 dun, and then Jobson comes in with like this clavinet or just this really funky, keyboard synth sound that just completely works. Most of the solo is Ray. Towards the end of the tour, Frank would also solo. But Ray's given a pretty good job. He does like that scat singing, and then he gives it a pretty good solid solo before they go into a very dramatic, drawn out, that post solo, near, 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 near. Like it's very much an event on this tour. You Didn't Try to Call Me, which is Bianca just showing off. It's a great arrangement. It's funky. Followed by Manx Needs Women, Titties and Beer is still here, and then Black Napkins, which is kind of your 20-minute epic. Jobson gets a solo. Bianca usually does like a singing solo, like a jazz singing solo. And then Frank would just, play an incredible guitar solo. And as I've said many times, every single Black Napkin solo needs to be released. Yeah. And then once Bianca left, it was just Jobson and Frank. They just didn't add any other soloists. Ray White did not take a solo in that. And then Advanced Romance. This was played all the way until Bianca left. Wasn't played at every show, but most shows. And then once Bianca left, it was dropped completely. At this point, Frank added, I think, Wonderful Wino, Find Her Finer, maybe a couple other new songs. One other new song that dropped in all of a sudden in her absence. Oh, I'm So Cute was played a couple times while Bianca was there. And that, if there is a good sounding version of that out there, that needs to be released, because that thing was just a weird, twisted, demented little all over the place number that definitely did not seem like it was like done, but had really dark undertones to it. Excellent song. Excellent version. I think it was played twice. I've only heard once. I'm assuming the other one sounded just like the one I've heard. My Guitar Wants to Kill Your Mom. I think that was the other one that popped up a couple times. Yeah. And then during the end of the show, sometimes you would get all these songs, sometimes you'd only get one. They did a bunch of Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me was around. They did a bunch of like old Flo and Eddie songs. Rudy Wants to Buy You a Drink. Would You Go All the Way? And Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. I think Daddy, Daddy, Daddy is one of the best songs ever. Oh, and sometimes What Kind of Girl Do You Think We Are, with Bianca doing one of the Flo and Eddie parts. And then your standard encores, you had Dynamo Hum, Camarillo Brillo, Muffin Man, and then for this tour, you had Stranded in the Jungle, which was the cover of some old, like, really kind of cheesy R&B, kind of just funky little dance number with puns about love, but jungle related and stuff like that. Really fun song. Again, this was a really fun tour. So that Philly 76, excellent sounding show that was officially released, is a really good representation of what you get from this band. Pound for Brown on the Bus was played a handful of times, played more often once Bianca left. It became a part of the regular set list, but it was played pretty much like you hear on Zappa New York with just a Frank solo. What else did I not mention? I think that's about it. Oh, Cruisin' for Burgers was played once, pretty much as it sounds like on Zappa New York, but it sounds a little bit heavier here without the horns. I mentioned I'm So Cute. And yeah, pretty much everything else is on the Philly 76 release. And the Stinkfoots sound pretty good too, and they're pretty. Frank is still having a lot of fun with this song, but the Poodle Lecture is just like, also that's one of the things that make it hard to like. Knowing that the Poodle Lecture is the second like song you have to sit through kind of always make it hard to want to put one on these shows. But once you get past the Poodle Lecture, it's all good. So that's why it's number 20. There are a couple really good shows out there that sound decent also. The Boston shows, I think that's the one where, Bianca tells the guy off. That's the one where Frank's, referencing the Any Kind of Pain and Bamboozled by Love. There's an early and a late show. I think the early show sounds better than the late show, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I don't know which one's which. The early show sounds much better than the late show, but those are both really good shows. And then later in the tour, November 16th, Bianca has already left, and that is a really good Pound for a Brown on it. It's just the band's kind of refining its groove after Bianca left. That had to be kind of hard. Has a really good Pound for a Brown and a really good Black Napkins. That's a Toronto show. And yeah, that's about it. And then Philly 76, if you haven't heard that, this is a great document of this band, and is definitely worth owning and checking out. So I think that's it. Number 20. I think, it's really hard to decide which one comes next in this utterly foolish project. But number 20, Fall 76. All right. Thank you for watching. Comment below whether you like this album, don't, whether you agree, disagree, anything I messed up on, all that kind of stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe. Yeah, take care. Peace.